OTD Nation, welcome back. We got a banger of a show today. And our
Sir.
guest today is a true Atlanta Brave native and a connector. So, the 95 World Series champion, lived the closer's life in the 90s, and now is a blessing that, keeps on giving because he helps keep the Braves legacy alive as the senior director of the alumni relations and growing the game. So, you've seen him obviously bringing back former players, building events, and creating new pathways for kids to fall in love with baseball and softball. Greg McMichael, welcome in.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good to have you.
Yeah.
Good to have you.
Great
Before
to
we
be here.
get started, we got a gift for you from our friends at Bridgestone Golf.
Dang. All right.
#1 ball fitter in golf. And
They're pretty good.
Tiger's ball of competition for the last 25 years, which I didn't know, but pretty good. So
You giving him the high swing speed or the low swing speed?
I'm
Low.
giving him the, no, I'm actually not a ball fitter, but I'm giving you a higher swing speed. You're a better player, but I'm giving you the spin ball
All right.
because you're,
We all need spin. We all need more spin, right?
when you're you're a finesse guy.
Yeah,
finesse
that's true.
pitcher, so
That's
I
true.
figure.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we
very
thank
kind of you.
Bridgestone for sponsoring us with the gifts.
Love it.
So
What's your favorite one? Which you and Cheney? You said you and Cheney are what?
we're really slow spin. We're really slow swing speed too, but
Hey, Negro loves low spin, right? That was the way you did it.
yeah, I used
Well,
to.
I think you got to do both. You got to do high spin and low spin.
Well,
That's the problem
I
these
used to
days,
use
right?
a low compression ball, a ladies' ball,
Yeah.
and for my swing speed, and I'm more of a control guy. Keep it in the middle of the
I
fairway.
mean, remember the old Baladas?
oh yeah.
Man, put the smiley face on there if you didn't hit it very well.
I used to think I thought it was the ball. These are terrible balls,
Yeah.
and found out it wasn't the ball. It
Mhm.
was my swing. But,
Operator error.
But before we get into big league moments, we want you to take us back to growing up in Knoxville and give us a little idea about your growing up.
Yeah, sure. It was sports all the time. My brother ended up being an All-American running back in high school, played at University of Tennessee with Reggie White. He was a linebacker there.
Oh,
And Willie Galt, those guys back in the day. So my brother played football at Tennessee. My brother-in-law was a lineman at Tennessee, and I played baseball there. So my father even tried out for the basketball team. So we didn't make it, but we were sports 100% of the time. For me personally, being the youngest was probably an advantage because I was trying to keep up with my
Right.
brother who was 5 years older than me. I was always trying to play basketball against the older kids. And, of course, back in the day, we just made up games and we were, whether it was tennis, but I did everything. I swam competitively.
right.
I ran track, played tennis. I played football, basketball, baseball, competed in everything, pitch, hit, and run, pump, pass, and kick. Wherever they were handing out trophies, that's where I was.
were there.
Yeah, I was there. Well,
Competitor.
that worked for a while. And then at 13, I was diagnosed with a rare cartilage disease called osteochondritis dissecans, and they told me at 13 I'd never play sports again. So I started having surgeries. I had 3 before my sophomore year.
Wow.
So I didn't play any sports between baseball, 8th grade, all the way through sophomore year in baseball. So I started. I told myself, I said, well. I've got to do something. I'm miserable. I was hanging out with the wrong people. I was a young kid hanging out with seniors. Didn't know who I was anymore because I was being an athlete. I said, I got to go try something. What's the easiest thing I can do? Well, maybe pitching. I probably need to go pitch. That's the easiest thing because on your body, right? As
Right.
far as I didn't have to run. So I actually started pitching again my sophomore year just a little bit, and everybody thought I was crazy. My coaches, I don't think my dad. My dad was like, hey, you just go do it if you think you can do it. And
Good for him.
so I started pitched a little bit, and I thought, I ended up being okay. But I felt like I was really starting over because my body had changed. You think about 13 to 15 years old, your body goes through a lot of changes. So I did that a little bit. Then my next year got a little bit stronger, pitched in. I actually played quarterback my junior year, and then ended up getting a full ride to Tennessee.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
That's
Go Vols.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where were your Where did you have the surgeries at? Was it in your knees? Was
Well,
it
I think nowadays they
specifically?
call them microfracture, but basically the articular cartilage is the
Yeah.
cushion in between
Yep.
your femur and your tibia.
Yeah, I deal with a
And
lot of those.
right, so mine were like this. So I was bone on bone, so mine would be like this. So both knees were like that, and I ended up just having my eighth surgery. I had a total knee replacement about 5 years ago.
Who did it?
Um, she's
Peachtree?
retired. Yeah, I can't. She's from Resurgence, but she did it. I was like one of her last surgeries,
Mhm.
and then she retired. But she did a great job. My doctor, Michael Morris, actually didn't do total knees. He did partial knees, so
Right.
he referred her to me, and she did a great job. So, but yeah, surgery has been a big part of my past. I played my whole career with anti-inflammatories and
Yep.
surgeries
Yep.
and bone chips and spurs and. But
Mhm.
literally, when they took this knee apart, they said I had enough spurring to create a second knee. So I had two kneecaps, and then I had enough bone that they shaved off to make another knee. Because think about it, for 40 something years, my knee grew
Yep.
because it had to protect itself. And so
Mhm.
my second one, that was my right knee. My second knee, on paper, if you look at it on the x-rays, it looks just as bad, but it doesn't affect me. It literally feels better now because I don't have as much pressure.
Right.
It's not overcompensating for my right knee.
Yeah.
So it's helped my golf game a little bit.
That's always good.
No, that's because you're a pitcher. All
Yeah.
pitchers can play golf. I haven't met one that can't play golf, but maybe there's one out there.
Yeah,
Leo,
there's-
maybe.
yeah,
no, but
no,
Leo's
Leo's all right.
Leo's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's all right. So when did you realize in high school that baseball was a way? When you started pitching and having success?
Yeah, I mean, I had 3 or 4 no hitters in high school. I went to a small private school, but I had a lot of success, and I had pitched, against some of the bigger schools, and the scouts started coming around.
Right.
I was recruited by everybody. I chose between Clemson, Vandy, and Tennessee, and I signed pretty early because I was tired of dealing with all the coaches. But
Right.
so I knew that I was doing things well, but I still had that part of me a doctor tells me I'd never play sports again. So I always had that doubt, like this can be done tomorrow. I mean, I don't know how long it's
Right.
going to last.
Right.
I'm enjoying it. I'm doing my best. I'd become a Christian at the time when I was in a junior in high school. So my motivation was a little bit different. And I
Right.
was just trying to be the best I can be and
Right.
glorify God in that. And so my perspective was really healthy. I just didn't have much expectations. I just didn't know how far it would go, but
Right.
I was just enjoying it. It was better than the dark places I was, a few years prior to that.
Right.
So I was in a good place and kind of pursuing something that was positive and not wondering who I was supposed to be.
Was there a mentor or someone that pushed you in that or helped you through
From baseball perspective
Yeah,
or a spiritual perspective?
the whole perspective?
Well,
The baseball.
my parents for sure. My
Yeah,
parents
your
were
dads.
divorced when I was in 5th grade, and both of them came to know Christ and got remarried
Oh,
to each
wow.
other.
That's
So
beautiful. Wow.
I knew a lot of people getting divorced, but I didn't know anybody was getting remarried.
Getting
I thought
remarried.
this is kind of weird. I was telling my brother, we were I was like, is this normal? Because I don't know anybody this is happening to. But I was the only one living at home, so I saw firsthand that this was a actual real thing, that God was real,
Wow.
and that my parents had this new relationship. And so that really impacted me. And I'm thinking, well, here I am. This is what I'm doing. And this doesn't make sense. I'm miserable, but yet I'm seeing this kind of completely new thing in our family that they're telling me that it's because of who God is. And so that was probably the biggest impact. So off the field, yes, that impacted me, but then it translated on the field because now, knowing who God was and what he was doing in my life, it changed the way I viewed athletics and the way I viewed
That's great.
pitching. And so it gave me a really clean perspective on what I was supposed to be doing.
What a great foundation to
Yeah.
start from.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was a huge ripple effect in my family. I mean, think about all my brothers and my sister and brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, and aunts and uncles. It just totally changed our whole family dynamic.
So you chose Tennessee. I'm sure the scouts followed you there and probably were disappointed you didn't. Did you have any
I didn't get
pro scout?
drafted
Oh, you didn't
because
get
I
drafted?
told them unless you had $100,000, which would be $4 million today.
Today.
Yeah.
I said if I'm not going to be a six-figure guy, then I know I need to go to college. But if you make it worth my while, and I don't think they viewed me that way. They probably had the same idea that I had, that I probably needed some work.
Right.
Now, knowing then what I know now, back then you went to the minor leagues and got developed.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think they really viewed college as being a place that you got developed.
Right.
But in my mind,
Right.
being a young kid, I thought I was going to get better. And I chose Tennessee because the pitching coach, or because the head coach, was a pitching guy. So Vanderbilt was not, Clemson guy was not, but Tennessee, they were my last choice. But because he was an impactful coach from a pitching standpoint, that's why I chose there. And I knew I was going to get developed. Now, I didn't know how hard the path was going to be going from private single A school to SEC.
Yeah.
But it was the best thing ever happened. I met my wife, and I went through hard times and
Right.
didn't struggle from a physical perspective, but challenged mentally and challenged, competitively, which was really, really good. And so that was the best thing. And I knew, I prayed long and hard about it, and it wasn't a flippant choice. I really went there, and knowing that it was not my first choice would made it even more powerful, because I knew I was going there for the right reason.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good.
Well, what did going to University of Tennessee teach you about failure? Like what kind of thing doesn't
That's a
show
great
up?
one. Yeah, failure. There was two things that impacted me as a young player: learning to succeed and learning to fail. And the fear of failure, I think we all experienced that probably first. And at Tennessee, not adjusting right away and having to revamp everything that I knew about pitching. Was very fortunate. Had a great pitching coach who ended up being in the big leagues for multiple teams, longtime scout, longtime pitching coach. Totally took me from a high three, right over the top, to a low three quarters, taught me my changeup, taught me how to sink the ball. But then he left after my first year. But he did the hard work. And then the rest was up to me and my next pitching coach, which actually was Mark Connor, who came from the New York Yankees. And he worked with Negro.
Right.
And he came in my junior year and kind of put the polishing touches on me and really gave me the confidence to know that I could step right into pro ball and be successful. And he probably got me drafted because you can imagine, if you remember, longtime scout Roy Clark, who had probably the greatest career as a scout than any other scout and just recently passed away.
Just passed. Yeah.
When he went to Mark and said, "Can this guy pitch in the big leagues?" And Mark just came from the big leagues. And when he said yes, that was probably an easy sell for him to go back to the Indians and get me drafted. But so I learned, I dealt with a lot of failure in college because of having to change and getting lit up and going out there and getting hit hard in the SEC. My first game, I think I had 2 balls off the shin. In the first inning.
Oh man.
So,
and the coach is like going, "What is going on? You got a full scholarship?"
so when you got from high school, did you know Pete said in high school all he did was So did you have multiple pitches in high school?
I had
and then you
3
had to
pitches.
change?
So no, I had a slider, curveball, and a fastball.
And then you had to develop that and change that a little bit.
And then when I went to college, those didn't work because I was throwing 80, 85, right? Got to college, bumped it up to 92, but I learned to sink the ball.
Mhm.
And then I learned that I could throw my fastball, my sinker. I threw a 4-seamer and a sinker, which I don't even think they know what a sinker is nowadays because they keep saying that the 2-seam fastball is a sinker. But the when it doesn't go like straight over the top, they say, "Oh, look at that sinker." I'm like, "No, that really didn't sink. That just ran." But anyway, I learned a sinker and I learned to throw it like a BP fastball. So I'd move it back and forth in my hand,
Right.
so I could throw it.
Finger placement. We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, it's really, you create a gap, you're out here, you're out there. And so I could throw it without slowing my arm speed down, and I could change 2 to 5 miles an hour on that.
Right.
So therefore that pitch was like 5 pitches,
Right.
if
Yep.
I really thought about
Right.
it. And I dominated a ball with just that one pitch, with just doing that. Because the younger kids could not do that. They could not adjust with a wooden bat, and they would just roll over. Every
Right.
time I'd throw a BP fastball with a sinker, that was a sinker, they would just roll over, and then I'd throw in a little bit harder, and I'd throw one medium, and then I threw that one pitch and dominated and won the championship in Carolina League with that one pitch because they couldn't hit it.
Leo
Right.
talked about that.
Yeah.
Changing speeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But back in college, having to adjust to the competition level from a Class A high school team to the pitching against the Florida Gators and playing against 22-year-olds, and I'm 18 or 19. And I wasn't confident in what I could do. I was just had stuff, but it wasn't even that great of stuff. It was good enough. But so I think being broken down completely back to the studs,
Yeah.
and then rebuilt allowed me to. But then I dealt with that fear of failure through that whole process my first year, and really getting dog cussed every time I walked off the field. Like, I can't believe I gave you full scholarship. You're the worst pitcher I've ever seen. But see, back then there was no leave. There was no kick. They committed 4 years to you.
That's right.
And then they honored that. But nowadays I probably would have been cut after my first year.
Man.
Very easily. All right. And I would have gone in the portal or whatever and gone to a junior college
Right.
and learned from somebody else.
Right.
So the fear of failure thing came into, and I got broke down. And then my next year, I went off and played with Athletes in Action in the summer, and really kind of came into my own and kind of took all that information and all that heartache and all that, just being pounded on, and really was able to relax and learn to pitch a little bit.
Right.
Came back, built on that my sophomore year, and then went away again with Athletes in Action. And when I came back, that's where Mark, the new guy, pitching coach from the Yankees, he was our head coach, but he was also our pitching coach. He came back and really polished me up, and I was ready. And then when I got drafted by the Indians and I went in the minor leagues, man, I just took off like a rocket. And I was in AAA after about a year.
Oh wow,
A year and
That's a
a
quick
year and a
jump.
half.
That's a quick jump.
Because I'd already gone through the hard stuff, and I'd already learned what big league guys weren't learning, and that was how to change speeds with one pitch.
Right.
And then when I added a slider, then my changeup came later. But it was easy pickings at that point because people are trying to get adjusted with a wooden bat, and you know how hard that is.
Big adjustment
and
for
then
kids.
just for me, changing speeds and making every sinker look the same, but they're different speeds, man. I just dominated.
Ate them up.
Yeah, and I I had 19 ground ball outs in some games.
They get
And I
out
pitched
front, and then they say, "Okay, stay back," and then you put a little more.
Then I
on
throw a
it,
four seamer, right?
and you break their bat.
That's right. They hit off the end. They hit and jam them, and
Yeah.
I'd go in and out, and
Right.
I'd go, really just in and out and change the speeds. That's
Well,
all I
that's
did.
probably the difference in pitching now. People don't move the ball around; they just try to.
Well, you got to have control to do that.
They just try to throw as hard as they
Location,
can.
location.
They don't do it. Yep.
What does Leo say? Location,
Location.
location. Just
That's
like
right.
real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But
But I'm a Tennessee fan, by the way, so good to have you on here.
Yeah.
That's another story we can talk about later about how I became one living in Georgia. But take us back to, we talked about the draft. So take us June 1988. Take us to draft day. What was that like?
A little different than nowadays. So we're just kind of waiting on a phone call, and I got a call from Roy, and he said, "Hey, we've taken you in the 7th round," which, still that's not, unless you're in the first 2 rounds, it's not a big deal.
Right.
I tell some of the guys now, I've got a bunch of young guys that work with me, and I said, there were 40 rounds back then.
that's right.
And 7th round was still a big question mark. I mean, and so there were 2 guys taken in the first round. So there was a 1A and a 1B, and then there was a second round guy. I go, out of all the 40 guys, 45 guys that were drafted when you look at the supplemental stuff, I'm the only guy that had more than a 3-year career out of those 40 rounds. And the other 2 guys one was just, had a cup of coffee, and the other guy was a utility backup for a few years named Mark Lewis, and he got all the money. Right.
Mark Lewis, I
Right.
remember. Yeah.
And then Jeff Mutis was the other guy, and he pitched a little bit with the Marlins, when they had the expansion draft. So that's pretty much the way it is. I mean, that's kind of how drafts go. So was pretty fortunate about that, and I attribute that all to the coaching that I got and all the hard work I did in college, and the people that influenced me on how to really pitch. Because when I got there, I was clearly different than most guys, and that's why I just kind of rolled through the system, because I was literally pitching, and I wasn't, it was easy. It felt like, I'm like, man, college was a little tougher than this. This is, but then something else happened, and then it became the fear of success,
right?
And that's a whole different other story.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I was not prepared for.
Yeah.
And so going to the fans and how they look at the minor leagues, what do most fans misunderstand about the minor leagues, especially particular for a pitcher trying to become reliable on every single start?
Yeah, that's when it becomes a job. So think about this. These kids are going from, hey, high school is great, high school hero, and then college, man, I'm like a AAA player in college. I'm getting all the NIL money and the contracts and stuff. And now you got to go back, and now it becomes a job.
Yep.
Now it's every day, and now you're just one of every. I mean, how many all-stars are in the minor leagues?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They keep moving up. The all-stars keep moving up. That's what, as I say, and now you're having to readjust your competitive, thought process. You're trying to readjust your body, because now competing for 6 months is a little different than competing for 3 months.
That's right.
Now you do have state-of-the-art stuff, but they had state-of-the-art stuff in college. It's just a little bit. Now you've got one job and not two. Maybe it's different, but it felt like that school was one job. Baseball was another job. Now you got one job, and now it takes all your time, which can be tough because it's all your thoughts.
Yep.
Which mentally I think is more of a struggle. Because now there's like, well, am I moving up? Why'd he get moved up? Why'd he get moved down? Am I going to get released? Am I going to, why am I not getting a chance to do this? Why am I the reliever and I'm not the starter? So there's all these other adjustments that happen. And then my body's not used to doing the same thing every single day for the length of time that you've done it before.
Yep.
Now, granted, you're probably 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. Man, if I don't get to the big leagues by 26, I'm probably not going to make it. That was the thought process back then.
Yeah.
Now it's probably a little bit different because they're bringing guys up after a year. So that probably it being a job and being away, and now you're in some little Iowa town or you're in some North Carolina town, and you're having to live with 5 roommates, and we were getting paid $800 a month and riding on buses and eating ramen noodles and peanut buttered sandwiches at the park. And now they don't do that as much anymore because the league, they've unionized and
it's gotten better.
It's gotten a lot better. But back in the day, you were supposed to be a Cadillac, running on on a Jetta, dinner, right? So expectations were a little bit different.
Yeah. You talk about college state of the art. They probably had more stuff for you in college than they did in the minor leagues. Some of the ballparks you played in.
Yeah, in the SEC, they were starting to really, they were getting a lot better. LSU was a AAA ballpark.
I mean, when you went to the minor leagues,
State.
some of the ballparks and
we had
some
chicken
of the
wire.
locker rooms.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was no locker room.
Terrible.
Yeah. I mean, we barely had tarps and we had chicken wire and, but you're young. I mean, I didn't have any expectations.
It was
I
pro
had
ball.
some of my great memories of, sitting in the
that's
bullpen.
what I was going to ask. Yeah. I mean, some of the
towns.
stories we hear about minor leagues are just, that's their favorite times of their career.
I remember one of my buddies, a moth flew in his ear and he couldn't get it out. And he's rolling around the ground. The moth's in my ear. Call the trainer. And the trainer's down there with forceps in the bullpen trying to get the moth
pull it out.
What was the story that Bruce told
Oh
us?
my gosh! You had Bruce on. Bruce had probably
Bruce
on a
was
2-hour
awesome.
podcast with him.
He was talking about
Yeah.
he was like guys smoking down in the bullpen and shooting off bottle rockets during the game.
Into the stands.
In Savannah, our AA team, and Danny Morgella and Rick Matula, they buried a Coke bottle in the bullpen. So it's it's in. It's got a little hole out there. You throw a bottle rocket in there and just. Nobody knows where it's coming from, man. And, the minor leagues is great stories, great times.
Oh yeah.
You're all pulling, to get to the next level.
The real relationships. You build some real relationships there. And I look back at our Bull Durham team, Durham Bulls back in 1991, we had 13 guys make it to the big leagues, and multiple of those guys were on the World Series team. So, Javi was there, Eddie Perez, Tony Tarasco, Pedro Borbon, Mike Mordecai. We cut our teeth there in Durham. And I remember they'd bring those hot dogs in after the game, a tray of hot dogs that were left over. And man, guys were going to town on those because if we got player of the game, we got a free burrito in Chapel Hill. And I mean, we were all like trying to kill each other, trying to get that player of the game every night because we just didn't.
That's right.
Did he come through when you were coaching?
I was just going to ask that. Were you in Richmond next year?
92, yeah. I was with Chris Chambliss.
Okay, I wasn't there.
91 was with Grady Little, and
that's when.
And then 92, I went Greenville with Grady, and then after a month, I went to Richmond with Chambliss.
Okay, I was with Grady in AAA.
Oh, the next year, 93.
What a great!
Yeah, Grady was awesome.
What a great team, like you said.
Oh yeah,
Javi.
That was the same. We set a record in 92 in Greenville.
Yep.
101 wins.
That's right.
So we won that championship. I was a closer there for 2 months, and then I got moved up. But yeah, it's the same team.
Yeah, it had Klesko at first, Ramon Caraballo.
And Chipper come up that year too?
Chipper was at short. Guy named Jose Oliva was at third. Phenomenal.
He was on the World Series team.
Some of the best hands I've ever seen at third baseman. Then you had Melvin Nieves, Arizona center fielder, Mike Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
And Tony Tarasco.
Yeah.
I mean, what a team.
Those were all my
But
teammates.
we got beat by the Indians in the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
What a team they had.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I was with those. That's who I got drafted by. So Tommy and all those guys.
Yeah.
Chuck Nagy, that's who I played with coming up. And they were all, they were great. And so they were right there. They were just like the young Braves, with the teams that we had in the
I tell a story about those two teams. We finished together, but we're going to play each other in the playoffs. So the last day of the season, optional hitting. There was two guys in the cage, one on each team. Chipper Jones. They were fighting for a batting title, and the other guy was Jim Tomei. Guys with incredible talent, but they were
putting in the work.
They were putting in the work, and hard work works, especially in the minor leagues. If you don't know how to work, you can't work your way out of slumps. Then
sure,
I mean, that's where you're.
Well, that's
where this part you got to have a strong mind or somebody encouraging you.
That's right,
because you fail.
Well, think about that. The guys who are coming up, they were talking about Michael Harris the other day. He's only spent a year and 2 months in the minor leagues. When do you learn to get out of a slump? When do you learn? We spent 4.5 years in the minor leagues, and we went through all the things that you need to be a big leaguer. If you don't, when are you going to learn it?
Right.
So I'm not surprised that he struggled for a half a season, 2 years in a row.
Right.
In the big leagues because he never learned to struggle in the minor leagues.
That's
That doesn't surprise me at
all.
all.
And you've got the pressure of the big leagues with all the fans.
Yeah, there's different.
It's all about winning.
Right.
Yeah. In the minor leagues,
it used to be. Now it's about learning.
You're going to struggle, but you know what? You're in the lineup every day, son.
Yeah.
You're going to be.
That's right.
Hey, keep working.
And
you struggle and you struggle. And then at the end of the year, you look at your stats and you say, pretty good year.
Yeah.
I came out of it. But that's where you learn to struggle. And now they rush kids so quick.
Yeah.
Now they struggle in the big league. That's a tough place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and
that's a tough place to learn.
Yeah, and the way
that.
they changed the whole option system, they can just send them up and down for 3 years 100 times.
Yeah.
So that, remember, you couldn't do that before. So you literally had the options. They were like 3 or 4 options, and then you had to be let go. So you couldn't rush guys up and then bounce them back and forth much. Yeah. So when they changed that, it helped the GMs out to be able to experiment with guys. Like we had Didier Fuentes come up, 18 years old or whatever. And so, he goes up, doesn't pitch well, okay, send him back down. He's got 3 years worth of options. So it's not as impactful, or that's not the right term. It's not as critical. And the GMs don't have to think as hard about bringing the guy up and trying him out.
And that option is 3 years from the time they get called up to the majors. That's 3 seasons, right? Or 3 years?
I think that, yes.
So that's when the clock starts. Okay. That's what I thought.
Like Elder, think about how many times he's gone up and down for the last 3 years.
Yeah, he's
now out of options.
He's out of options, yeah.
Right. So before, I think it was a hard number. It wasn't per season. Yeah. So that rule really impacted the big leagues now, agents
in a negative way?
Well, I mean, back to our point, you don't have to worry about a guy staying and learning in the minor
Okay,
leagues. You
yeah,
can
yeah,
just
yeah.
drive up and say, well, maybe this guy will just kind of turn the switch when he gets to the big leagues. So let's go ahead and throw him up here and try it
Right.
out. I don't think that
It's a tough
works very
goal.
well.
Mike Kelly on that team,
Yeah. Mm.
great,
Golden Spikes Award winner.
and had some good seasons in the minors. But then they brought him up, and you struggle there.
As a backup, though. He struggled because he came up as a backup.
He wasn't playing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like me, I was the 11th pitcher on the team when I made the team. I sat and watched Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz and those guys pitch for, 3 weeks before I even saw the field.
Right.
Because there I was coming off being the closer and a starter, so that's the mental adjustment. If you
That you
don't
have
know
to
who
make,
you are,
right.
you're going to struggle just with that fact.
Yeah.
Right.
How do I pitch every 10 days? I mean, I'm the mop-up guy right at this point.
Right.
I got to work my way, and I got to get Bobby to trust me. So
that's in '93.
Yeah, I was in '93. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I ended up being the closer by the All-Star break. But
That's what.
but I had to prove myself after
Right.
sitting for 3 weeks, and then like, okay, well, all right, we'll give him another shot. Instead of how the pecking order is in the minor league,
Right.
or in the bullpen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But once you get the confidence of a manager or a pitching coach,
Right. But there wasn't that many opportunities. I mean, when Maddox is going out there every 5 days, I mean, he's going 9 innings, and then you got Smoltz and you got Glavine. So the opportunities were few. So the pressure to make even more of an impact with your opportunity when you're 11th guy is even harder.
Right.
Right.
So now you become the closer midseason. That's a different pressure right there.
It is.
I
It
mean,
is.
in the big leagues,
I was ignorant enough to not even realize it. But I had closed in the minor leagues. It's not like I didn't know, but I was just like, things were going so well, and people weren't hitting changeups.
Right.
So
that's a game.
That's all I threw. And I threw 3 different types of changeups with a sinker and a show me slider. So I was so different that I had my pickings again.
Right.
Of these guys didn't know me. They weren't seeing much of me.
That's right.
So I reeled off 15 straight saves before anybody knew what they were looking at.
Wow,
that's right.
Impressive.
And then the next year I got a little smart, and I thought I had to be better. And I struggled a little bit because I just tried to do more than instead of doing the same.
That's right. Just be you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Does
because
that all go back
that's
to
when
your
the
pitching
pressure,
coach?
the pressure all of a sudden meant something now.
That's right.
Because I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I'm the closer now, so I need to treat things a little bit differently because now I know what it's like being in the league for a year.
And it's a different mindset as a closer.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the minor leagues when I was with Snit down in Macon, and some guys you bring them in the middle of the game, or you're behind, lights out. You bring them in at the end of the game, one run up. It's a different feel for a pitcher, and some guys have the mind of a closer and can do it, and other guys just can't. That's why you have setup guys and you have closers.
That's right.
The setup guy, if you put him in a closing situation, sometimes they give it up. And,
yep, I've been there.
I mean,
yeah,
but
it happens.
it's a tough.
You got to have a little bit of little carefree attitude and not care as much, and then you've got to. It's like anything. I mean, how many times you see a guy in batting practice? He's hitting them over the light poles, and all of a sudden, there's a couple guys that I made career. If I pitched against them all the time, I'd be in the Hall of Fame because they hit fastball over the light poles. As soon as they saw a changeup, they just rolled over on it. And you love those guys, right? Yeah. And you just know that they just can't make an adjustment.
Right. And so those kind of guys you wouldn't throw this to. You would throw it.
Well, they'd have to prove to me that they could actually hit my best pitch first.
Leo
Leo was good about that. Keep your best.
That's right. And he was good in the meetings. Change up better than curveball.
Mm-hmm. Well,
some guys recognize this.
I mean, if you're not going to tell Bert Blyleven that. Right. I mean, he threw 3 different, or Dave Steve, but if it's you keep your best. But if it's your second or third, then you have something to think about.
Right.
Funny story. And so I'm in New York, and I this is maybe my 4th year in the big leagues, and so I said I need to throw a cutter. I need to learn a cutter because everybody knows what I throw now. So I need to change something. So we're in New York and I throw a cutter and the guy hits it out. I'm in there and Leo's like, I'm sure Bobby's on the bench pulling his hat off. He's like, what was that pitch? What was that pitch? And Leo's like, I don't know what that pitch was. I'll ask him when he comes in here. So Leo comes over and waddles over and he says, what was that pitch? I goes, Leo's a cutter. He goes, a cutter? You don't have a cutter? I said, well, I'm working on a cutter. He goes, yeah, we don't pay you to throw cutters. We pay you to throw changeups. Do not throw cutters anymore. But
Your
that
best stuff.
But it was the thing is that when we put you in the game is on the line.
That's right.
Right. I wasn't a mop up guy after my first 2 weeks in the big leagues. Right. I was then setup guy and I was a closer. Right. And I did that the rest of my career. So you're in the game when the game's on the line. You have to get beat. Now, obviously, it's just your third pitch. You don't ever get beat with your third pitch. If you're going to get somebody out, you show them your third pitch and then you get them out with your best pitches.
With your
right.
best stuff.
And so it was just a lesson to me that, that kind of stuff you work on different places. But when the game's on the line, you can't
You
get
go
beat.
with your best stuff.
And if they beat, you tip your hat. Right.
Yeah.
Guy gets you with he gets you with your best pitch, then you can't do anything about it.
Right. That's right. So 95 club. What made that team different? Just everybody had great years and everybody contributed.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, we just didn't think we were going to lose. I mean, we had that.
isn't that a great feeling?
Yeah.
Confident.
Even in 93, which I think was the best team I ever played on, because we came back 10 games on the Giants at the All-Star break, and we literally lost 3 games from the All-Star break to the end of the season. And we just did not think there was any game that we were going to lose.
Right.
It was going to be starting pitching for 7.
Right.
And then we'd give up maybe a run or 2 and we'd score 3.
Right.
And then, I'd close it out. I mean, just that was the mindset. And we played good enough defense. We made all the routine plays and we didn't have to worry about spectacular plays. We had Limmer and Lyles that made the routine. Chipper, TP was at third.
Right.
I mean, he was incredible third baseman.
Yep.
And we had McGriff at first. He was going to supply a little bit of power, and we got DJ in right, and we've got Otis catching everything in center field.
Everything.
And so we just didn't. I think just when you go into a game every time and you don't worry about,
just know.
nobody can beat you.
Yeah.
I mean, you can stay pretty steady. And I think that's just, we always did it. And they did it for 91. They did 91. They did 92. So we just knew, okay, our goal is when we get to the World Series, we'll make amends. And then 94, things, changed a little bit because there was a lot of weird stuff going on. The Expos just got our number. We got 10 games down and we couldn't come back like we did against the Giants. We own the West. I mean, you know it. Yeah. Dodgers, no fear with the Dodgers, no fear with the Giants, even though they were 10 games up, still no fear. And then there were the Rockies, and we didn't have any fear against them.
Oh, no.
In 93. But 94, the Expos kind of were the young club.
Right.
And then, of course, the strike hit. So we go back in the 95, and we're like, okay, we reset. All right, that get rid of that year. Don't worry about that. So 95, we kind of start out. We always stood out kind of slow. Started out a little bit slow. That wasn't a big deal. But 95 kind of started, everybody got back into the groove and strikes over with. Now we're pressing forward. And we hit our stride again after a couple months. And we had the same mindset again. Nobody can beat us. Right. And we just rolled through the season. Weren't worried about the Phillies. Weren't worried about the Mets. And then we find ourselves in the playoffs. But what had changed is now the Rockies had Murderers Row, right? And you had Galarraga and Vinny Castillo, who, he was my teammate in
Dante
AAA.
Bichette.
Dante Bichette and Larry Walker.
And
so we knew they didn't have the pitching staff, but they had this weird thing where you had to go on the road to start, and you had to play there 2 games. It was only a 5-game series. So really, it seemed like home field advantage, but winning, but it didn't. Because we had to go there first, and those were some really tough games.
Oh, yeah.
And we could have very easily lost one or both of those and been down 0-2 and coming back home and playing 3 games.
Right.
And that would have been a totally different dynamic. But there again, Colorado was just different. I mean, everybody, it was a crapshoot when you went there. And then with those guys learning to hit, I mean, it was tough. But so once we got past them, we weren't worried about the Reds, and we rolled and swept them and went right into the World Series. And then it was the two teams that you saw, right? We had the young Indians and you had the young Braves.
Yep. Gladden pitches 1-0 game
Mm-hmm.
to win it, right?
Yep. Game 6.
Justice home run.
Mm-hmm.
What a
it was a great series. Of course, you know, it was so one story that I always tell from that is that, you know, of course the Indians drafted me. The Indians also released me, and didn't have any bitterness, but it's just my story, right? It's my journey. So after we won Game 6, I didn't pitch that game, but I'd pitched in 3 games. The guy who actually was ahead of the minor leagues was now the assistant GM, and John Hart was the GM, right? So I'm in Fulton County. I'm in front, you know, those blue doors that went to the field.
Yep.
So I'm in the locker room, and I'm getting ready to pop open a bottle of champagne, maybe my second one, I'm not sure, but I'm shaking it, and I feel like I'm the only guy in the room, and those 2 doors open up, and in comes the guy who released me, and he walks up, shakes my hand, says congratulations, and goes on. And because they had told me to retire because they knew the history of my knee problems. Once they drafted me, I went through and they released me after 2 years and said I'd had another knee surgery. And they're like, yeah, you're not going to make it back. We just got Curtis Laskanik and Jerry DiPoto, and these guys are kind of going to take your spot. So why don't you probably need to retire? And I just said, well, I appreciate your concern, but so I went back, and Roy was now with the Braves.
right.
And so Roy came and watched me pitch, and he signed me with the Braves. And so then that started my trek with Durham and Greenville and Richmond. And so now now literally from the time they released me in 1992, it's 3 years later. And I just won the World Series, and the guy comes up and shakes my hand. So
That's awesome.
And I said, it wasn't about being bitter and like, oh, look, I showed you.
Right.
It was the fact like, wow, look what God did.
Yep.
It was amazing. God can only pull that off.
Right.
Because I didn't work harder than anybody else. I mean, I was creative. I feel like I have some intelligence, pitching intelligence, but I had opportunities, and then God just put me in the right places to be for that moment.
Always.
To be amazing. Yeah. Like, wow, I can't believe that just happened.
When God closes one door, He's always faithful. We don't see it at the time. Always faithful. To open another door. And you always, it's, you know, you hear that hindsight is 20/20.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When you look back, you think of something in your life and you're like, man, at that time, you know, I thought my life was over. But then you look back and you go, oh, that's why you did it. Okay.
That's right. Well, and I will, the Indians, you know, to their credit, I didn't have my changeup. Right. I learned my changeup in the minor leagues back when I went back to A-ball. I went from AAA back to A-ball with the Braves, and I struggled again with my knee recovering. And that's when I was reintroduced to my changeup, and it kind of became its own. So they never saw that until
Who reintroduced you?
Yeah. So I was in.
Was it Slack or Del Canton?
No, Slacky was my coach.
Okay.
But what was funny, he was my coach in AA, but in A-ball, Larry Jaster. But Larry didn't teach me to. So what happened, I was taught it in college, and it was crap for 4 years. Wasn't anything. So now back to learning to struggle, right, in the minor leagues. So think about it, I'm a AAA player.
And
I get released. I'm back in Winston-Salem. So I'm playing for the Durham Bulls, and Grady's my manager. Right. Larry's my pitching coach. And I just had, I was coming off another knee surgery. I wasn't bouncing back. And I literally was walking in to the stadium to retire and tell Grady, my knee's killing me. And Roy shows up, Roy Clark. And Roy says, hey, how you doing? I go, it's the All-Star break now. And Roy says, hey, how you doing? I go, Roy, I'm doing terrible. I said, I can't get out of bed. My knee's the size of a cantaloupe, and I've got tendonitis in my elbow. I can't get anybody out. These guys couldn't hold my jock, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, and now my ERA is 7. And I said, they should release me, but they're not, so I'm just going to go ahead. And he goes, no. He goes, listen, you just need to stick it out for the rest of the year. He goes, whatever you do, don't quit, because you'll regret it the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And I said, Roy, I can't move. He goes, I don't care what you got to do. You go home, talk to your wife. So just you need to stick it out. I said, okay, well, I go home and I said, well, I tell my wife, Jennifer, I said, we got to start praying. I said, I don't know why Roy showed up, but for some reason he showed up and scouts never show up during the season in the minor leagues.
Right.
I said, so let's start praying. Maybe God, I need to do something, but this swelling's got to go down. So I go in and, after about 2 weeks, a little bit better, 2 weeks, a little bit better. And I'd lost my starting job. I was on the DL. So I come off, I'm in the bullpen. I'm throwing sinkers and I'm just throwing sinker, slider. And I'm in back to Winston-Salem. And, one of the scouts in the stands, I don't know. I never knew who this guy was. I wish I did. I wish I would have been a little bit more aggressive about this, but, he told the starting pitcher for the next night, hey, tell McMichael if he had a changeup, he'd be in the big leagues. And so after the game, he comes in Winston-Salem, he tells me that, and I'm like, ugh.
Wow.
I said, they're always telling you something you don't have, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, I got a changeup. I haven't been throwing it.
I just don't throw
So
it.
the next day, I go out there with my Nate Minchie, who pitched a long time in Japan. He was my throwing partner. I said, Nate, I want to throw some changeup. He goes, you don't throw a changeup. I go, I just want to practice. So I start throwing a couple changeups, and they go, whoa, whoa. I mean, just like screwballs. They were
Right.
like left-handed curveballs.
Right.
And he looked at me, he goes, what's that? And I go, that's just circle change. I go, I don't know. I hadn't never done that before. And so I'm throwing them, and so I didn't pitch that game because I pitched the night before. And so after the game, Grady says, hey, Scott's getting called up to AA, so we want you to start the rest of the season. Now there's 6 weeks left in the season.
Mm.
And I said, well, I need to throw a bullpen. So can I get Javi? And he goes, yeah, because you're going to start on 2 days from now. So I go in the bullpen. I said, Javi, I said, I'm just going to throw some change-ups. He goes, you don't have a change-up. I go, I know, I'm just working on it. He goes, all right, whatever. So I'm throwing, and Larry's standing next to me, Jaster. So I throw 2 change-ups, and Javi stands up, takes his mask off, and he goes, what is that? And I go, it's circle change. He goes, that's pretty good. And I said, yeah, I'm going to throw I'm going to throw some more of these. And so Larry's like, yeah, that's good. And so we get to the game 2 days later, and I just go to Javi by myself, and I said, Javi, we're not throwing anything but change-ups. If you call 15 in a row, I'm going to throw 15 in a row. I think this pitch is that good. He goes, all right, let's do it. So I go 7 innings, no runs, 2 strikeouts an inning for 7 innings, and I maybe a couple hits, all on changeups. And I'd throw 15 sinker, 10 sinker, once, and that's all we did. So after the game, Grady's like, hey, that's a good job. Okay, you're starting again next week. So next week, same thing. I go, Javi, nothing but changeups. And then after about a couple games, I'm like, wonder if it would go the other way. So then I started cutting it. I started throwing a cut changeup, and it's to the righties because it just kept going away to the lefties.
Right.
So then I started throwing a cut changeup, and now I was throwing them both ways. And then I would say, well, wonder if this will go straight, and I'd throw it hard, and I'd throw it 80, and then I'd throw it 76, and I'd throw it 78. So now it's 4 weeks later. I haven't given up a run in 4 starts, 2 strikeouts an inning, and like 7, 8, 9 innings.
Wow.
And then at the end of the season, so I've gone 6 innings, 6 weeks with no runs. And so after the season, Grady's like, hey, way to finish strong. Good job. I don't know what's going to happen, but, we'll talk to you in spring. So I'm thinking I'm done. Terrible first half, great first half. But we just signed Chuck Lamar. And
Yep.
Chuck sends a note out because typically we'd cut about 50 guys during this winter to get ready for spring training.
Yep.
So he sends a letter out, says, I'm not releasing anybody. I want everybody to come. So all 200 guys are coming to spring training. So I'm thinking, okay, well, there's only one AA team. So you got 3 A-ball teams going into one AA team. So you got 30 pitchers that got to come up with 10.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, this is going to be tough. And so get spring training. I'm on everybody's release list except for Slacky on the AA roster. So everybody has me out. So I of course I don't know this at the time. I find out later, but I just start pitching, right. And I get to throw a couple innings, 3 innings, same thing, 2 strikeouts, no runs, 2 strikeouts, no runs. And so now we're at the end of spring training. So now it's 6 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. It's 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
No runs, 2 strikeouts an inning.
Huh.
So Chuck, find out later, Chuck says, I'm going to go and I need to see McMichael pitch. This guy and this guy, whoever pitches the best, we're going to keep. And the knock on me was I was only throwing 84 miles an hour. And that was because of my knee, right? My knee had surgery and I was struggling. So I was throwing all these changeups.
Right.
They said I wasn't throwing hard enough. Because back then, 86 to 88 was kind of where you needed to be on the ray gun.
That's right.
So anyway, he goes and watches me pitch, and same thing. I go 5 innings, 2 strikeouts an inning, no runs, and I'm throwing 88. So he keeps me. I become the 10th or 11th pitcher on the AA team, the 92 team, or the 92 team. They make me the closer. So now I'm leading the league in strikeouts as the closer for the first 2 months of the season. And I'm striking out the world, and I'm saving every game. And so they call me up to Richmond, and I become a starter again. And then they send me to Puerto Rico. I lead the league in wins and strikeouts and make the All-Star team. And then that's when they invited me to camp in 93 as a non-roster invitee. And after that spring training, no runs, 2 strikeouts an inning, but I'm pitching against Wade Boggs, and I'm pitching against Don Mattingly, and I'm pitching against Howard Johnson. And Bobby's looking like, what is going on? Who is this guy? But see, because I would pitch in the 4th inning before those guys got out, because our starters would only go 2 or 3 innings.
That's right.
So they got to see me pitch against now big league guys.
Right.
Because that was getting them before they got out. So then Bobby was like going, what is going on? And so next thing you know, I make the team as the 11th pitcher in 1993, and I just kept rolling from there. But it all went back to that scout who said, tell McMichael if he had a changeup, he'd be in the big leagues, because I would have.
Challenging your mind.
Isn't that crazy? And
it's too bad
wish
you
I
don't
know. Maybe the guy is going to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be great. It would be great. I tell that story all the time.
Leo tells a story about that spring training.
By the way, he didn't talk to me for 2 weeks because he's like, I don't know this guy.
Yeah. Well, he did.
Until he had to.
TP went by him and said, I don't know about what you guys are thinking, but if you don't keep this guy on the roster, you guys are stupid. And Leo tells that story about TP.
Sid was right there in my corner too. Those 2 guys were incredible mentors.
But it's good that Slacky was in your corner.
Oh, yeah.
I've been in those meetings as a coach. Everybody wants to release a guy, and then a coach will stand up. No, I think I see something there. The next thing you know, he is. And you have to have those kind of guys in that. Not everybody can, yeah. If you feel that he's got something, you need to stand up behind him. And
he was old school.
You know what's funny?
Slacky was, well, we had him, Bruce Del Canton.
Oh, yeah.
Then.
Well, yeah, Bruce was my pitching coach in
Larry
AAA.
Jaster, he'd fight you in a minute. He would fight the other team. He was a A-ball coach when I was there.
Yeah.
In
that's
Macon.
right. He was
And,
great. I still talk to him.
You do?
Yeah, he comes up. He's come up to the stadium, brought his granddaughter and son.
Where's he living?
He's in either South Georgia or North Florida. I can't remember, but he's been up a couple times.
I loved him, man.
Yeah.
You talk about intensity, and that goes on. You take on kind of the what your coach or your manager is. If a guy's
I believe it.
An intense pitching coach, you're going to knock guys down. Which you can't do anymore in the big leagues. But
I wouldn't do it anyway, throwing changes.
Well, what is Leo's thing?
Occasionally.
Leo's thing is honest in,
right, out of way.
And I tell
and we could, because the strike zone was horizontal back then. Now it's vertical, right? So we couldn't do it as much. But I mean, we did what the way the game was. I mean, it's like people talk to me about. I've had executives talk to me about whether Maddox could pitch nowadays, and I'm like, yeah, I think so. I said, we only pitched the way the game was supposed to be pitched. I mean, the way the game was set up to pitch, that's the way we pitched. If it was set up differently, we'd pitch differently.
Yeah.
Well, Maddox had great movement too. He can make the ball go this way.
Yeah.
And
right, but he did what they allowed him to do.
That's right.
And
All
to
of the
say
guys.
that, if the game was different, he would have adjusted because he had that kind of command.
Yeah.